Paralyzed for 8 months, I was a living corpse at the mercy of others. That night, my finger finally moved. I thought there was a light at the end of the darkness, but then I heard the man by my pillow and the caregiver plotting. Tomorrow, we'll push her from the penthouse terrace. A $50 million inheritance. That was the sole purpose of his 8 years of love for me. I closed my eyes and tears slid silently down my face. So this car accident had been a setup from the very beginning. 2 a.m. The only sound in the bedroom was the faint hum of the respirator. I stared at the ceiling, my eyes wide open, just as I had for the past 243 days and nights. The 8th month after the car accident. I, Ava Martinez, once a titan of industry, the CEO of Summit Holdings, was now just a piece of flesh lying in a bed. I had no feeling below my cervical spine. Ryan Miller turned over beside me, his arm resting on my shoulder. This gesture once made me feel warm. Now it only made me feel suffocated. I wanted to push him away, but my fingers couldn't move even a millimeter. Just then, a sharp pain shot through my right index finger. It was faint like a needle prick, but it was a real sensation of pain. I held my breath and tried to move my finger. The tip of it actually moved. For the first time in 8 months, I felt that my body was still alive. My heart began to race violently. I tried to keep my breathing steady, not wanting to wake Ryan. I wanted to give him a surprise, to tell him that there was finally hope. We had made it through the hardest time. We'll do it tomorrow night. A hushed male voice came from outside the door. It was Ryan's voice. I froze. Wasn't he in bed? I glanced to the side, and in the faint glow of the city lights outside the window, I saw that next to me was just a bolster pillow. Ryan, honey, do we really have to do this? What if we get caught? A woman's trembling voice. It was the caregiver, Chloe Davis. What are you afraid of? She's been a vegetable for 8 months. Even the doctors said there's no hope. Ryan's voice was so cold it felt alien to me. Tomorrow night, I'll wheel her out to the terrace for some fresh air. You'll be next to her and accidentally let go. The wheelchair will roll right off the edge. Not even God could save her. But what? You want to be a home health aide for the rest of your life, Ryan sneered. When she's dead, the $50 million inheritance is all mine. And there's a $5 million insurance payout. I'll marry you then. We'll go to the Caymans and live the good life. Chloe's voice immediately became excited. Really? You'll really marry me? Silly girl. I've been sleeping with you for over a year. Would I lie to you? Over a year. My mind went blank. The car accident was in March of last year. In the 2nd month of my paralysis, he was already sleeping with my caregiver. What about the car accident? Chloe asked cautiously. Don't worry, I paid off the guy at the auto shop. No one will find out the brakes were tampered with, Ryan said smugly. I thought she would die on the spot. I didn't expect her to be so tough to drag this out for another 8 months. But that's fine too. A sudden fall after being paralyzed for so long. No one will suspect a thing. My fingernails dug deep into my palms. So the car accident wasn't an accident. So these 8 months of meticulous care were all an act. So the man sleeping by my pillow was the one who wanted me dead the most. Ryan, you're so good to me, Chloe cooed a tone so unlike her usual professional self. That one with her stone-cold face at the company, always so arrogant. Just looking at her is annoying. Just a workaholic. What's the use of earning so much money? It all just benefits me in the end, Ryan laughed. All right, remember what you have to do tomorrow night. Make sure you act the part. Cry when you're supposed to cry, panic when you're supposed to panic. I know. The footsteps faded away. The bedroom door was gently pushed open. Ryan tiptoed in, stood by the bed for a moment, and leaned over to look at me. I closed my eyes, keeping my breathing steady. One more day, he whispered in my ear, his voice filled with vicious delight. Ava Martinez, you'd never dream that the husband you trust the most would be the one to send you to your death, would you? His hand caressed my face, his touch as gentle as if he were caressing a treasure. Don't worry, I'll cry very sadly at your funeral. After all, you are my most beloved wife. Then, he lay back down in bed, wrapped his arm around me, and soon the sound of his even snores filled the air. I opened my eyes and tears slid silently down my face. An 8-year marriage, a $50 million fortune. In his eyes, it was all just a meticulously planned murder and a scam. But he didn't know his prey had already woken up. I moved my fingers, which were gradually regaining sensation, feeling the warmth of blood flowing again. My right hand could already make a fist. My left hand was starting to feel something too. Tomorrow night. Very good, Ryan Miller. This game has only just begun. The night outside was thick as ink. I stared at the ceiling, my mind racing, planning my counterattack. 8 months of paralysis had taught me one thing in a desperate situation. You either die, or you make the person who wants to kill you die first. And I, Ava Martinez, was never the type to sit and wait for death. The morning sun filtered through the curtains. Ryan woke up on time and placed a kiss on my forehead. Ava, the weather is so nice today. How about I take you up to the terrace to watch the sunset tonight? His voice was gentle and considerate, his eyes full of concern. If I hadn't heard those words last night, I would have truly believed he was a good husband. I maintained my vacant stare, showing no reaction. Although my body was recovering, the process was slow. For now, only my hands could move slightly. The rest of my body was still numb. Chloe, it's time to give Ava her bath. Ryan called out the door. Chloe came in with a basin of water, a professional smile on her face. Mr. Miller, you can go to the office without worry. I'll take good care of her. Ryan changed and left. The room was now left with just me and Chloe. The smile on her face vanished in an instant. She roughly pulled back the covers. What are you pretending for? You'll be dead by tomorrow anyway. The washcloth was wiped carelessly over my body, her movements far from gentle. And you're the CEO. Now you have to let me serve you. I suppressed my anger, continuing to feign unconsciousness. Chloe leaned close to my face, a vicious glint in her eyes. Did you know Ryan says you're incredibly boring in bed? Not like me, I can make him happy. Your $50 million will be ours soon. She finished with a smug laugh, continuing her work. I mentally recorded every single one of her offenses. 10 a.m. The doorbell rang. Mr. Brown, you're here. Chloe immediately put on a respectful expression. David Brown was my college roommate, and also my personal lawyer. He had come to see me every week for the past 8 months. He walked into the bedroom with a thermal container. Seeing my still lifeless form, a flash of pain crossed his eyes. Ava, I brought you some soup. David sat by the bed and took my hand. This was it. With all my strength, I made my index finger twitch slightly in his palm. David's body visibly stiffened for a second, but he quickly returned to normal, continuing to speak in a gentle voice. The doctor says your condition is improving. You have to have faith. His thumb pressed twice on the back of my hand. It was our old code from college. It meant message received. Mr. Brown, I'll get you some tea, Chloe said as she walked out. David immediately lowered his voice. Can you hear me blink once if you can? I blinked once. Oh my God, David took a deep breath, forcing himself to calm down. Are you in danger? I blinked again. Is it Ryan Blink? David's face instantly became grave. He spoke quickly. I understand. You keep pretending. I'll go make preparations. I'll find a way to come back tonight. Chloe came in with the tea. David had already resumed his normal expression, continuing to speak to my unconscious self. Half an hour later, David left. In the afternoon, Ryan came back early carrying a bouquet of lilies. Ava, these are your favorite flowers. He placed the flowers in the vase by the bed. Tonight we'll go to the terrace. You'll love it. Chloe peeked her head out from the kitchen. Ryan, honey, for dinner, I made Ava's favorite dishes. Good girl. Ryan walked over and wrapped his arms around Chloe's waist in the kitchen. Stop it, she's still here, Chloe said coyly. What's there to be afraid of? She's a vegetable. Ryan's hands began to wander. After tomorrow night, we can do whatever we want. Has the insurance been taken care of? Don't worry, the beneficiary was changed to me long ago. When she signed it, she thought it was just some investment paperwork. Ryan laughed smugly. Stupid woman. Good at making money, but no sense of guarding against people at all. I finally remembered. 3 months ago, Ryan brought a stack of documents for me to sign, saying they were routine papers for our portfolio. I was lying paralyzed in bed at the time, with no energy to look closely. I believed whatever he said. So, among them, was the insurance beneficiary change form. By the way, how are things at the company? Chloe asked. Frank Thompson. I gave him a taste of the profits. He promised to help me sideline the board of directors after you die. Ryan lowered his voice. Summit Holdings will be mine then. Ryan, you're amazing. The two kissed completely oblivious, paying no mind to the vegetable lying in the bed. I closed my eyes, rapidly processing the information. The car accident, the insurance, the company, the vice president, the signature. What a vast and intricate scheme. And I had nearly become its sacrifice. 6 p.m., David appeared at the door again. Mr. Miller, I have some legal documents that need Miss Martinez's signature. May I go in? He carried a briefcase, his expression serious. Ryan frowned but still stepped aside. David, please come in. But Ava is in this state. It's fine. A fingerprint will do. David walked into the bedroom and closed the door. He quickly took out a phone from his bag and a miniature camera, tucking them under my pillow. The phone is on vibrate. Text if anything happens. The camera is aimed at the room and will automatically upload to the cloud. He held my hand, his eyes red. Ava, hold on. I've already called the police, but we need hard evidence. You have to protect yourself. With all my might, I traced 2 words in his palm with my finger. Tonight. David's expression changed instantly. They're going to do it tonight, I blinked to confirm. I understand. David took a deep breath. Trust me, I won't let anything happen to you. He opened the door and said to Ryan, I'll come back for the documents tomorrow. I won't disturb you. Ryan saw David out and returned to the bedroom. Looking at the darkening sky outside, a cold smile formed on his lips. Ava, are you ready? He leaned in and said in my ear, Tonight is the anniversary of your death. Night fell. Ryan and Chloe were in the living room discussing the details in low voices. I lay in bed, the phone under my pillow vibrating softly. It was a message from David, camera connected. I'm monitoring. Police are on standby. Protect yourself. My right hand could now grip the phone, and my left hand was gradually regaining feeling. I carefully hid the phone under the covers and opened the company's financial system. As the CEO, my account had the highest clearance. Having not logged in for 8 months, the system prompted that there were numerous abnormal transaction records. My heart sank. From March to July, over a period of 4 months, $5 million had been successively transferred out of the company account. The recipient was a company called Miller Ventures. The legal representative, Ryan Miller. He didn't just want my life, he wanted to hollow out my company. I kept looking and found Vice President Frank Thompson's signature on all the transfer approval forms. No wonder Ryan said Frank would help him. They had been accomplices all along. The phone vibrated again. A message from David, I found out. Ryan opened an offshore account in the Caymans. He's already transferred $3 million. He also has 2 other women on the side, and he's been giving them money. I clenched my jaw. This man was even greedier and more shameless than I had imagined. Ma'am, it's time for your medicine. Chloe walked in with a bowl of liquid medicine, a fake smile on her face. I stared at the bowl of dark brown liquid, and a terrible thought occurred to me. For these 8 months, I had been drinking this every day. Chloe lifted my head and poured the medicine into my mouth. The bitter liquid slid down my throat, and I felt a wave of nausea. Drink up, Chloe's voice was tinged with malice. You'll be dead tomorrow night anyway. 1 more bowl or 1 less doesn't make a difference. She put down the bowl and suddenly reached out to pinch my cheek. You know, I added something to this medicine. The doctor prescribed IV nutrition, but I pour out half of it every time and replace it with crushed up sedatives. My pupils contracted violently. Why do you think you never woke up? Chloe smiled triumphantly. Ryan said to let you sleep more to save him the trouble. If you weren't so tough, you would have been dead long ago. She let go, leaving red marks on my face. By the way, your designer bags and jewelry, I've already tried them all on. Chloe opened the closet and took out my Hermes bag. When you're dead, these will all be mine. Ryan said he'd give me the best. She preened in front of the mirror with my jewelry, treating me as if I were already dead. I watched it, all my phone silently recording under the covers. 9 p.m., Ryan walked into the bedroom. Chloe immediately went to him. Is everything ready? Ryan asked. Yes, I've loosened the brakes on the wheelchair. A gentle push and it will roll, Chloe said. I also sprinkled some water near the edge of the terrace. I'll say I accidentally knocked over a bucket of water for the plants. Smart. Ryan wrapped an arm around her waist. After this is done, I'll give you $1 million. Only $1 million. Chloe pouted petulantly. Didn't you say you'd marry me? Marry you. Ryan sneered. Who do you think you are? Once I get the money, I'm going to find Ashley. She's much younger and prettier than you. Chloe's face instantly changed. You lied to me. What else? Did you really think I'd marry a caregiver? Ryan pushed her away. Just do your job. $1 million is enough for you to live on for the rest of your life. If you don't listen, you won't get a single cent. A look of resentment flashed in Chloe's eyes, but in the end, she lowered her head. I understand. That's a good girl. Ryan patted her cheek. Tomorrow night, 10 p.m. See you on the terrace. Remember to make it look real. The two walked out of the bedroom. I could hear Chloe's suppressed sobs and Ryan's impatient reprimands. I sneered in the darkness. Dogs fighting dogs. Perfect. The phone vibrated. A message from David got it all on tape. The police now have evidence of Ryan embezzling company funds. They will set up an ambush on the terrace tomorrow night. Ava, how is your body recovering? I painstakingly typed a reply. Hands can move. Legs still can't. That's enough. I'll be waiting downstairs tomorrow night. Trust me. I put down the phone and moved my gradually recovering arms. 8 months of paralysis had caused my muscles to atrophy. Every movement now required a huge amount of effort. But I had to persevere. Around midnight, Ryan lay beside me, sleeping soundly. He was probably dreaming of his fortune, completely unaware that his prey had already laid a trap. I turned my head to look at him at this face that had once made my heart flutter, which now only disgusted me. An 8-year marriage, a lie from beginning to end. He got close to me, married me all for my money, and like a fool I gave him all my trust. But this time I would not lose. The moonlight shone coldly through the window. I closed my eyes, conserving my strength. Tomorrow night was the final showdown. Ryan Miller, your meticulously planned murder, will become your own funeral. I silently counted down in my mind, my fingers gripping the blanket tightly. My body was still weak, but the flames of revenge were already burning fiercely in my chest. On the terrace, we'll see. The next day, the entire day passed in an eerie calm. Ryan was unusually attentive, giving me a massage one moment, talking to me the next, the perfect image of a caring and thoughtful husband. Ava, the sunset tonight will be beautiful, he said gently. I'll take you out to the terrace so you can see the outside world. You've been in this room for too long. Chloe was packing things nearby, her eyes darting around. She was clearly still upset about last night's conversation, but she didn't dare act on it, only enduring it in silence. 3 p.m. My phone vibrated. It was David. The police are in position. Plainclothes officers are around the building. I'm downstairs ready to rush up at any moment. Can you move your legs? I tried to move my legs. My toes could wiggle slightly, but standing up was still impossible. I replied, can't stand but can protect myself. Received. Remember when you get to the terrace stall for as long as possible. Get them to say everything clearly. I deleted the chat history and hid the phone under the wheelchair cushion. 6 p.m. The sky began to darken. Ryan changed into a black outfit. Chloe was also dressed plainly. The two exchanged a look, their eyes filled with malice. Chloe, help Ava into the wheelchair, Ryan said. Chloe came over and roughly pulled me up from the bed. I let her handle me like a true vegetable. She stuffed me into the wheelchair, her movements anything but gentle. My arm hit the armrest, sending a jolt of pain. Gently, Ryan said with false concern. Don't hurt her. I know, Chloe replied impatiently. Ryan pushed the wheelchair out of the bedroom. As we passed through the living room, I saw a document on the coffee table. Divorce papers. He had even prepared this. The private elevator ascended slowly to the penthouse level. Ryan stood behind me. I could feel his suppressed excitement. Chloe stood beside him, holding a watering can. Later, just say you came to water the plants and accidentally spilled the can, Ryan said in a low voice. I know, Chloe's voice trembled slightly. The elevator opened directly into the penthouse foyer. The glass doors to the sprawling terrace were at the end of the hall. Ryan pushed the wheelchair towards them, with Chloe following behind. The penthouse was silent. The only sound was the rolling of the wheelchair. The terrace doors slid open. The evening wind blew in, carrying the chill of early autumn. The sun was setting the sky a blood-red canvas over the Manhattan skyline. Ava, look! What a beautiful sunset. Ryan pushed the wheelchair to the edge of the terrace, only a few feet from the glass railing. This is the last time you'll ever see it. His voice suddenly turned icy. Chloe placed the watering can on the ground and deliberately kicked it over. Water spilled everywhere. She retreated to the doorway, nervously looking around. No one's here, she said. Good. Ryan walked in front of me, crouched down and looked into my vacant eyes. Ava Martinez, did you know I never loved you? I remained expressionless. When I met you 8 years ago, it was because you were rich. A hideous smile spread across Ryan's face. Did you think you were so charming? Just a workaholic. Always a stone face and boring as hell in bed. If it weren't for your money, I would have left you long ago. He stood up, looking down on me. On the day of the accident, I tampered with your car. I thought you would die on the spot, but I didn't expect you to be so tough. But that's fine too. After being paralyzed for 8 months, everyone thinks you're a lost cause. Now if you die in an accidental fall, no one will suspect a thing. From the doorway, Chloe urged Ryan, "Hurry up! What if someone comes? What's the rush?" Ryan said impatiently. "I want her to die knowing the truth." He turned back to me and continued, "Do you know how great these past 8 months have been for me? During the day, I transferred your assets at the company. At night, I held Chloe in my arms. Oh, and there's Ashley, Megan. They are all younger and more beautiful than you. Of your $50 million, I've already siphoned off a good chunk. When you're dead, the rest will be mine. Summit Holdings will be mine too." He smiled triumphantly. "You worked so hard for 10 years, and in the end it all benefits me. How about it? Are you pissed?" He leaned close to my face. "Too bad you can't even speak." Just then I suddenly opened my eyes wide and stared directly at him. Ryan was stunned for a moment. "You." "I am very pissed." I spoke, my voice hoarse but every word clear. "That's why I want to watch you go to prison with my own eyes." Ryan's face turned deathly pale. You can talk." Not only can I talk, I raised my right hand, pulling the phone from under the wheelchair cushion. "I've recorded everything you just said." Impossible. Ryan lunged forward to grab the phone. At that moment, the terrace doors were thrown open and 4 or 5 plainclothes police officers rushed out. "NYPD, don't move." Ryan froze on the spot. Chloe screamed in terror, the watering can rolling to one side. David rushed in behind the police and grabbed hold of my wheelchair. "Ava, I'm fine." I looked at Ryan's terrified face and said coldly, "Ryan Miller, game over." "You?" "When did you?" Ryan's voice trembled. "I regained consciousness the night before last," I said. "Your conversation with Chloe. I heard everything. I've been faking my paralysis for the last 2 days, just waiting for you to confess everything yourself." "Impossible." "This is impossible." Ryan collapsed to the ground. Chloe suddenly pointed at Ryan and shouted, "Officer, it was all him. He made me do it. He said he wanted to kill Miss Martinez and he promised me $1 million. "Shut up," Ryan roared. "You also lied to me and said you'd marry me. Turns out you were just going to use me and throw me away," Chloe cried hysterically. "I'll confess everything. He planned the car accident. He told me to put sedatives in her medicine. He embezzled money from the company." An officer walked over and handcuffed Ryan. "Ryan Miller, you are under arrest for suspected attempted murder and embezzlement." "No. Don't." Ryan struggled. "Ava, I was wrong. I was really wrong. For the sake of our 8 years of marriage, please let me go." I looked at him, my eyes as cold as a blade. 8 years of marriage. Are you worthy?" The last rays of the sunset shone on the terrace. Ryan was taken away by the police. Chloe was also taken into custody. David knelt before me, tears streaming down his face. "You scared me to death. I told you I wouldn't lose." I took his hand and smiled weakly. "This battle I've won." The wail of police sirens faded into the night. I sat in my wheelchair watching Ryan being shoved into the car. He was still struggling, still shouting my name, his voice filled with desperation. But I felt not a ripple of emotion. "Ava, let's go to the hospital first." "You need a full checkup," David said, pushing my wheelchair towards the elevator. "No. First we go home," I said. "I need to get all the evidence." Back in the penthouse, David helped me onto the sofa. My legs were still weak, but my arms had regained their strength. "Help me open the safe in the study." I told him the combination. David opened the safe. Inside, various documents were neatly arranged. I had him take out a folder from the very bottom. "What's this?" David asked. "The prenuptial agreement." I opened the folder. Inside was a notarized agreement that I had made Ryan sign before we got married. It stipulated that if he cheated or acted against my interests, he would leave the marriage with nothing and would have to compensate me with $10 million. David gasped. "You were prepared for him all along, not for him. For everyone." I flipped through the documents. In all my years in business, I've seen too many fortunes lost to bad marriages. So, before I got married, I prepared for the worst-case scenario. "But you were married for 8 years. I thought you had a good relationship." "I thought so too," I smiled bitterly. But now it seems he was acting from the very beginning. I continued to search, pulling out another document. Company Equity Agreement. It clearly stated that all shares of Summit Holdings were under my name. Ryan didn't own a single share. And this. I took out an insurance policy. This is the life insurance I bought 3 years ago. The beneficiary is my mother. The change of beneficiary form Ryan had me sign has no legal effect at all because it requires me to handle it in person at the insurance company. His forged signature doesn't count. David looked at me stunned. You thought of everything. The market is a battlefield. How could I not have a few tricks up my sleeve? I gathered the documents. Now I'm going to make him pay. David took out his laptop and opened a folder. This is what I found in the last 2 days. Ryan opened 3 offshore accounts and transferred a total of $3.5 million. He was supporting 4 women on the side, giving them a total of $50,000 a month. He also colluded with Frank Thompson to embezzle $5 million from the company's accounts. Some of that money went to his offshore accounts and some went to Frank. I looked at the transaction records on the screen, every single one crystal clear. What about Frank? I asked. Already in police custody, David said. He's singing like a canary. He'll probably tell them everything. Good. I leaned back on the sofa. Tomorrow, I'm going to the office to hold a board meeting. Your body. I have to go, I interrupted him. The company can't be in chaos. I need to let everyone know that I'm still alive. And that I'm doing very well. David was silent for a moment, then nodded. I'll go with you. The next morning, David pushed my wheelchair into the Summit Holdings building in Midtown Manhattan. The receptionist saw me and stood up in shock. Miss Martinez. Notify all board members of a meeting at 10 a.m., I said calmly. The news spread like wildfire throughout the entire company. As I went up in the elevator, every employee I met looked at me with stunned eyes. Miss Martinez is back. Isn't she paralyzed? I heard Mr. Miller was arrested. The whispers followed me, but I paid them no mind. In the boardroom, the 7 directors were already present. Seeing me enter, everyone stood up. Ava, please have a seat. I had David push the wheelchair to the head of the table. I know you all have many questions. I'm here to answer them. I briefly explained the events of the past few days. The boardroom was silent. Ryan Miller and Frank Thompson colluded to embezzle $5 million from the company. Both are now under arrest. I looked at the chief financial officer, old Mr. Davis. Immediately freeze all suspicious accounts and begin recovery proceedings. Yes, Miss Martinez, Director Davis responded at once. Also, from today onwards, all financial approvals must be co-signed by me and David Brown. Any expenditure over $100,000 must be approved by a board vote. Understood. I looked around the table. Gentlemen, you have fought alongside me for many years. I trust you. But this incident has taught me a lesson. Trust must be built on a system. From today, the company's management system will be completely overhauled. Ava is right, a director stood up. We support you. Yes, we all support Miss Martinez. The meeting lasted for 2 hours, restructuring all aspects of the company's affairs. When it ended, all the directors breathed a sigh of relief. Ava, please get some rest. Leave the company's affairs to us, Director Davis said. Thank you. I nodded. Back in my office, I had David help me into my executive chair. Sitting in this seat, I finally felt a sense of regaining control of my life. Ava, there's news from the police, David said, looking at his phone. Chloe has confessed everything. She said Ryan added sedatives to your medicine for a full 7 months. The doctor said it's lucky you have a strong constitution, or there would have been serious long-term damage. They've also confirmed the details of the car accident. Ryan bribed a mechanic to tamper with your car's braking system. That mechanic has been arrested. He confessed that Ryan gave him $100,000. I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath. So the pain of these 8 months was all his doing. Ryan's charges are very serious. Attempted murder, embezzlement, insurance fraud, David said. The DA says he'll be facing at least 15 years. Too lenient, I opened my eyes. I want him to rot in prison for life. There's one more thing, David hesitated. Ryan's parents are here. They're waiting downstairs. They want to see you, I sneered. Send them up. 10 minutes later, Ryan's parents were brought into my office. The 2 elderly people looked haggard. His mother's eyes were swollen from crying. Ava, please let Ryan go. His mother knelt as soon as she entered. Ma'am, please get up, I said, my face impassive. No, I won't get up, she cried. Ryan was just confused. But he's still your husband. For the sake of your 8 years of marriage, please forgive him this once. 8 years of marriage, I said coldly. When he wanted to kill me, did he think about our 8 years of marriage? When he embezzled my company's funds, did he think about our 8 years of marriage? He was just momentarily confused. Enough, I cut her off. Ryan committed attempted murder. It's not up to me to let him go. The law will give him the punishment he deserves. Ava, we're begging you, his father also knelt. Please, he's our only son. I looked at the two elderly people feeling no sympathy. When your son wanted to kill me, did you ever think that I am also my mother's only daughter? This sentence left them speechless. Please leave, I said. And don't come looking for me again. Security came in and escorted the two elderly people out. His mother's cries echoed down the hallway, but my heart was as hard as stone. David walked over and gently took my hand. Ava, you did the right thing. I know. I looked out the window. This is just the beginning. Next, I'm going to take back everything that belongs to me. 3 days later, I appeared at the detention center in my wheelchair. When Ryan was brought into the meeting room, he looked completely haggard. When he saw me, a complex mix of emotions flashed in his eyes: shock, fear, and a hint of resentment. Ava, his voice was hoarse. Sit down, I said coldly. Ryan sat down on the other side of the glass, looking at me through the phone receiver. Your legs. They're recovering well. The doctor says I should be able to walk in another month. I interrupted him. Disappointed, a meticulously planned murder, and in the end you got nothing. Ryan lowered his head, silent for a long time. I came here to tell you, I continued, the district attorney's office has formally indicted you. Attempted murder, grand larceny, and insurance fraud. With these 3 charges combined, you'll be facing at least 20 years. 20 years. Ryan's body trembled. Also, I have filed for divorce and am demanding $10 million in compensation. I took out the prenuptial agreement and showed it to him through the glass. Remember this. When you signed it, you probably never imagined this day would come. Ryan's face was ashen. We don't have $10 million. I know, I sneered. That's why you'll lose everything. Your parents' house, all the assets under your name will be seized and auctioned by the court. No, you can't do this. Ryan stood up excitedly. My parents are innocent, innocent, my voice rose sharply. I'm innocent too. When you wanted to kill me, did you ever think that I was innocent? When you were putting sedatives in my medicine, did you ever think that I was innocent? Ryan was stunned by my intensity and slumped back into his praise. Chair. One more thing, I calmed down. Frank has confessed everything. He said you approached him proposing to sideline me and carve up the company. You promised him a cut to help you embezzle funds. He also said you started planning all this 2 years ago. The car accident wasn't a spur-of-the-moment thing. It was premeditated. Ryan's eyes darted around, not daring to look at me. Why, I stared at him. Was I not good to you? I gave you whatever you wanted. I never bothered you with company affairs. The allowance I gave you each month was more than enough. Why did you do this to me? Because I resented you. Ryan suddenly looked up, his eyes filled with hatred. Do you know how people see me? Ava Martinez's husband? A kept man. A good-for-nothing who lives off a woman. I'm a man too. I have my pride. But in front of you, I'm nothing. His voice grew more agitated. The company is yours, the penthouse is yours, the cars are yours. Even every cent I spend is yours. I was sick of it. I wanted to prove myself. I wanted to have my own fortune. I listened quietly until he finished, then laughed coldly. So you decided to kill me, Ryan faltered. Ryan, do you know what your biggest problem is? I leaned closer to the glass. It's not that you're incapable. It's that you have no morals. You could have used your own abilities to earn money to start a business to prove yourself. But you chose the most despicable method to kill your wife and take her assets. You don't deserve to be a man, let alone my husband. Ryan's face turned beet red, his lips trembling, unable to say a word. By the way, I have something else to tell you. I took out my phone and opened a photo. Do you know her? The photo was of a young, beautiful girl, the one he called Ashley. She came to see me yesterday. Said you owed her $500,000. I told her you'd been arrested. She burst into tears on the spot and said she was going to the police to report you for fraud. And there's Megan, Lauren, Jessica. They all came too. I swiped through the photos on my phone. The 4 women you were keeping on the side, they all know you're a fraud now. They've teamed up to sue you. Ryan's face was ashen. You think you're so clever playing so many women, I put my phone away. But you don't know that when women unite, they are far more formidable than you can imagine. Ava. I was wrong. Ryan finally broke down. I was really wrong. Please let me go. Too late. I motioned to David. He started pushing the wheelchair out. Ava, Ava, Ryan shouted from behind me. We're still husband and wife. You can't be so heartless. I stopped and looked back at him. Husband and wife. From the moment you decided to kill me, we were no longer husband and wife. And remember this, I said word by word. You will never get out of prison in this lifetime. I will use every means possible to make you pay the price. Walking out of the detention center, the sunlight was blinding. David handed me a pair of sunglasses. How do you feel? He asked. Great, I put on the sunglasses, a smile playing on my lips. The day of the trial, the courthouse was swarmed with reporters and onlookers. The story of the Summit Holdings CEO suing her husband for attempted murder had been a media sensation for a week. Everyone wanted to see the outcome. David pushed my wheelchair into the court. Camera flashes went off incessantly. Miss Martinez, are you confident about the trial's outcome? Miss Martinez, will you forgive your husband, Miss? Martinez, is it true he had multiple mistresses? I didn't answer any questions, heading straight into the courtroom. The public gallery was packed. There were company employees, friends from the business world, and many unfamiliar faces. I saw my mother in the front row, her eyes red. When Ryan was brought in, he had lost a lot of weight. He wore a prison jumpsuit, his hands cuffed, his gaze evasive, not daring to look at me. All rise. The judge entered, and the trial officially began. The prosecutor spoke first, listing all of Ryan's crimes. In November of this year, the defendant planned another murder, attempting to push Ava Martinez from her penthouse terrace to fake an accidental death in order to obtain a $50 million inheritance and a $5 million insurance payout. Furthermore, the defendant is also suspected of embezzling over $5 million in company funds, insurance fraud, and several other crimes. The prosecutor's voice echoed in the courtroom, each word a hammer blow on Ryan. The defense and prosecution lawyers clashed fiercely. Then David stood up. Your Honor, on behalf of the plaintiff Ava Martinez, I request the court to sentence the defendant Ryan Miller to the harshest penalty. He laid out the reasons: the prolonged duration of the criminal acts, the extremely vicious methods, the defendant's greed for both life and property, and his complete lack of remorse. The plaintiff Ava Martinez may now speak, the judge said. I took a deep breath and had David push my wheelchair to the witness stand. Your Honor, members of the jury, my voice rang out in the court. Ryan Miller and I were married for 8 years. I thought I had married a man I could entrust my life to. But I was wrong. He wanted to push me from my own home, then take my inheritance and live a happy life with other women. The gallery broke into murmurs. My mother was crying uncontrollably. If I hadn't happened to regain consciousness, if I hadn't overheard their conversation, I looked at Ryan, I would be dead now. Your Honor, I am not a cruel person, I said. But for someone who tried to kill me time and again, I cannot forgive. I demand the court to sentence him to the maximum penalty to make him pay for his crimes. After I finished, the courtroom was silent. Ryan stood up, his voice hoarse. I'm sorry, Ava. I admit I did many wrong things, but I never really wanted to kill you. I was just momentarily foolish. Momentarily foolish, I sneered. You planned it for 2 years, and you call that momentarily foolish. Ava, I truly know I was wrong. Ryan suddenly knelt. Please forgive me. For the sake of our 8 years of marriage, enough. The judge banged his gavel. The defendant will be seated. Witnesses were called one by one: Chloe Davis, the mechanic, Frank Thompson. Each piece of testimony, each piece of evidence laid Ryan's crimes bare. After an hour's deliberation, the court reconvened. The verdict will now be read. The judge's voice was solemn and grave. The defendant, Ryan Miller, is found guilty of attempted murder and sentenced to 15 years in prison. Guilty of grand larceny and sentenced to 8 years in prison. Guilty of insurance fraud and sentenced to 5 years in prison. For the combined offenses, the final sentence is 20 years of imprisonment, with deprivation of political rights for 5 years. In addition, the defendant is ordered to compensate the plaintiff Ava Martinez $10 million for economic losses and $5 million for emotional distress. The gavel fell. The verdict was final. The gallery erupted in applause. Ryan collapsed in his chair, his face ashen. No, he whimpered. 20 years. I'm only 35. As the bailiffs led him away, he passed by me and suddenly stopped looking at me. Ava, you will regret this. I won't, I said coldly. The one who should have regrets is you. Ryan was led out of the courtroom, his cries fading in the distance. I sat in my wheelchair looking up at the courtroom ceiling, and tears finally streamed down my face. Not for Ryan, but for the 8 years of my life, for the person I once was, who once believed in love. Ava, my mother came over and held me tight. It's all over. It's all over. Yes, I leaned on her shoulder. Mom, let's go home. 6 months later, spring arrived. I stood before the floor-to-ceiling windows of my office on the top floor looking out at the city below. The sunlight on my face was warm and bright. I could walk again with only a slight limp that physical therapy was quickly correcting. Miss Martinez, this is the financial report for the first quarter. Mark Peterson, the new VP, walked in. I flipped through it, a smile on my lips. A 45% increase in profit. Not bad. It's all thanks to your leadership, Miss Martinez, he said. After he left, David came in. Ava, I have some news for you, he said. Ryan's appeal was rejected. He also wrote you a letter. Do you want to see it? I paused for a moment. Bring it here. I tore open the envelope. The handwriting was messy. Ava, I know you won't forgive me, but I still want to say I'm sorry. I've regretted it every day for the past 6 months. I will reform myself in prison. In 20 years, if I'm still alive, I will go to your grave and kneel to apologize. Ryan Miller. I read it, then tore the letter into pieces and threw it in the trash. That's it, David asked. That's it, I said. His apology means nothing to me. A week later, I was in my office meeting Ethan Hayes, an investor. He was around 38, well-dressed and elegant. Miss Martinez, I admire you greatly, Ethan said. Not just for your business acumen, but for your strength of character. If possible, I would like to invest in your company. Not to control it, but to partner with you. I believe we can achieve great things together. I looked at him, thought for a moment. I'll consider it. I'll give you an answer in 3 days. After he left, David came in. What do you think? He seems decent, I said. But I need to do more research. Do you have a crush on him? David teased. Don't be ridiculous, I rolled my eyes. I'm only focused on my career right now. All right, David surrendered. But Ava, you should also consider your own happiness. I am very happy now, I said. I have my career, my friends, my mother. What more could I ask for, but… No buts, I interrupted him. David, after everything I've been through, I no longer believe in love. I only believe in myself now. The sun was shining brightly outside. I stood up and walked to the window looking at this city. A year ago, I was lying in bed thinking my life was over. But now I was standing again and standing firmer than ever before. Ryan Miller wanted to destroy me, but he failed. I not only survived, I thrived. That is the best revenge. I picked up my phone and looked at a photo. It was of my mother and me at Central Park last weekend. We were both smiling happily. I set it as my wallpaper, then turned back to my desk. On the desk was a new project proposal. I picked it up and began to read it seriously. Life is long and there is still much to do. I will not stop. I will keep moving forward. Because I know only by constantly advancing can I truly control my own destiny. Ava Martinez, you've got this, I told myself. Outside, the spring breeze blew, bringing with it new hope, and I was ready to embrace my new life.